Don't let them use you. There's a moment in life when you realize not everyone who shakes your hand is your friend. Not everyone who praises you has your best interest at heart. Some people are here to take, not to give. And if you're not careful, they will use you until there's nothing left. The truth is, people don't use us because they're powerful. They use us because we allow them to. We stay silent when we should speak up. We say yes when we should say no. And before we know it, we're exhausted, chasing approval from people who wouldn't chase after us. But here's the good news. You have a choice. You are not a tool for someone else's convenience. You are not a stepping stone for someone else's success. The moment you start valuing yourself, everything changes. Set boundaries. Learn the power of saying no, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. If someone only comes around when they need something, take a step back and ask, do they value me or just what I can do for them? The most successful people don't just work hard, they work smart. They don't just give, they give where it matters. They don't just say yes, they say yes to what aligns with their values and no to what drains them. The right people won't just want something from you. They'll want something for you. They'll push you to be better, challenge you to grow, and remind you of your worth, not when it's convenient for them, but because they truly care. So today I challenge you, take ownership of your time, your energy, and your future. Don't let them use you. You are worth more than that. Have you ever felt like you were giving your all, yet somehow you were the one left drained? Have you ever noticed how some people only call when they need something, but when you need them, they're nowhere to be found? It happens to all of us at some point. We work hard, we try to please, we say yes because we don't want to disappoint. But here's the problem. When you don't set boundaries, people will take advantage of you, not because they're stronger, but because you haven't drawn the line. Today, I want to talk about something critical. How to stop being used, how to recognize the signs, and how to take back control of your life. Because the truth is, no one can use you unless you let them. Let's dive in. Everything changes the moment you realize your own value, the way people treat you, the way you allow yourself to be treated, and even the opportunities that come your way. Everything starts with how you see yourself. If you don't believe you are worthy of respect, appreciation, and fairness, why would anyone else? Too often, people fall into the trap of thinking their worth is tied to how much they can do for others. They say yes to every request, they overextend themselves, and they allow people to dictate their time, energy, and focus. And what happens? They end up exhausted, underappreciated, and stuck in a cycle where they give more than they receive. But here's the truth. Your worth is not defined by how useful you are to others. It's not measured by how much you can give, how often you say yes, or how willing you are to put others first at your own expense. Your worth comes from who you are, not just what you do. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who walks into a room and commands respect without even saying a word? They don't beg for approval, they don't seek validation, and yet people admire them. Why? Because they know their worth. They don't allow themselves to be treated as an option, an afterthought, or a tool for someone else's success. They set a standard, and the world adjusts. Knowing your worth means understanding that you have something valuable to offer, not just your skills, your time, or your effort, but your perspective, your ideas, your presence. It means recognizing that you deserve respect, fairness, and appreciation, not because you earned it through sacrifice, but because you exist as a person with dignity and value. The challenge is, if you don't recognize your worth, people will take advantage of that gap. They will sense your need for validation and use it to their advantage. They will ask for more, knowing you won't push back. They will expect you to bend, knowing you won't say no. Not because they are bad people, but because that's human nature. We take what is freely given. So what's the solution? You must set the standard for how you are treated. If someone undervalues you, don't prove them wrong by overcompensating. Prove them wrong by walking away. If an employer doesn't appreciate your work, find one who does. If a friend only calls when they need something, stop picking up. If someone doesn't see your worth, it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to surround yourself with people who already do. Knowing your worth is not arrogance, it's self-respect. It's understanding that you don't have to chase people to recognize your value. You don't have to prove your worth by constantly doing more, giving more, or sacrificing more. You simply have to believe in yourself enough to walk away from situations that don't align with your dignity. Imagine this. You're always the one people call when they need help. You're always available, always saying yes, always accommodating, even when it leaves you exhausted. At first it feels good, you feel needed, valued, important, but over time something shifts. The more you give, the more people expect. The moment you hesitate, the moment you say no, you feel guilty. Or worse, they make you feel guilty. This is what happens when you don't set boundaries. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting your time, energy, and self-respect. They define what is acceptable and what is not, what you will tolerate and what you won't. And here's the truth. If you don't set boundaries, people will set them for you. They will decide how much of your time they can take, how much of your energy they can drain, and how much of yourself you should sacrifice. Not because they are bad people, but because you never told them otherwise. The problem is that many people fear setting boundaries. They worry about disappointing others, being seen as selfish, or losing relationships. But the reality is, the people who truly respect you will also respect your boundaries. The ones who don't, they were only there for what they could get from you in the first place. So how do you start setting boundaries? First, recognize where they are needed. If you constantly feel drained, resentful, or overwhelmed, chances are your boundaries have been crossed. If you say yes to things out of obligation instead of desire, that's a sign. If you feel like people only value what you do for them rather than who you are, it's time to make a change. Next, communicate them clearly. People cannot respect boundaries they don't know exist. If you always work late but want to reclaim your evenings, you have to tell your boss, I won't be available after 6 p.m. If a friend constantly unloads their problems on you without considering how you're feeling, you have to say, I care about you, but I don't have the emotional space for this right now. If someone expects you to drop everything for them, you have to make it clear, I have my own priorities too. And here's the hard part, you must enforce them. Setting a boundary means nothing if you let people cross it without consequences. If you say no, but then cave under pressure, people learn that your boundaries are flexible. And if they're flexible, they're meaningless. The first time you set a boundary, it will feel uncomfortable. People might push back, they might call you selfish. But that discomfort is temporary. The freedom that comes from strong boundaries lasts forever. You will find that when you protect your time and energy, you are less stressed, more fulfilled, and surrounded by people who truly respect you. Boundaries don't ruin relationships. They reveal which relationships were built on mutual respect and which were built on convenience. The right people will understand. The wrong people will walk away. And that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, your life is yours to live, not to be controlled by the demands and expectations of others. There's a dangerous trap many people fall into without even realizing it, the need for approval. It starts small, wanting to do a good job, hoping to be recognized, striving to be seen as valuable. But over time, it can turn into something far more exhausting, working not because it fulfills you, but because you're chasing validation. The problem with constantly seeking approval is that it puts control of your life in someone else's hands. You begin shaping your decisions, your actions, and even your dreams around what will make others happy rather than what truly matters to you. And the scariest part, it never ends. No amount of external validation will ever be enough if you don't first validate yourself. Think about the people you admire, leaders, visionaries, those who have made an impact. They didn't get there by doing what pleased everyone else. They didn't shape their work around applause or adjust their dreams based on who approved. They got there because they had something bigger guiding them: purpose. When you work with purpose, everything changes. Your energy shifts. You stop worrying about whether people will like you and start focusing on whether your work makes a difference. You stop measuring success by how many compliments you receive and start measuring it by how aligned you feel with what truly matters. But this is where it gets uncomfortable. Living with purpose means disappointing people sometimes. It means saying no to things that don't serve you. It means walking away from places where you aren't valued, even when staying feels easier. It means putting your energy into work that might not get instant recognition, but will have a lasting impact. When you're driven by approval, you say yes too often. You overcommit. You take on work that drains you simply because you don't want to let people down. But when you're driven by purpose, you learn the power of intentional yeses and unapologetic nos. You stop giving your energy to things that don't align with your values, and you focus on what actually moves you forward. And here's the ironic part. When you stop chasing approval and start living with purpose, the right kind of recognition follows naturally. People respect those who stand firm in what they believe, who work with passion, who know their own direction. The applause that comes isn't forced or begged for. It's earned, and it's genuine. There's a certain type of relationship that feels like a partnership, but in reality it's a one-sided transaction. It's the kind where someone only calls when they need something, only shows up when it benefits them, and only values you for what you can offer. At first, it may seem harmless. Helping others feels good, and being needed can feel like a form of connection. But over time, these relationships drain you, leaving you feeling used rather than appreciated. The problem with transactional relationships is that they aren't built on genuine care or mutual respect. They are based on exchange. As long as you're useful, you're included. As long as you can provide something, your time, your skills, your resources, you are welcome. But the moment you have nothing to offer, you start to see the truth. You were never valued as a person, only as a means to an end. It can be hard to spot these relationships at first because they don't always feel transactional in the beginning. Someone might compliment you, make you feel important, or even offer small favors. But if you look closely, there's always a pattern. The relationship is conditional. It's not built on trust, loyalty, or shared values. It's built on what they can get. One of the clearest signs of a transactional relationship is imbalance. You're always the one reaching out, always the one giving, always the one making the effort. But when the roles are reversed, when you need support, time, or help, suddenly they're too busy. They disappear. They make excuses. They don't see the relationship as a two-way street because, to them, it never was. It's easy to justify staying in these relationships. Maybe you tell yourself that they mean well, or that one day they'll change. Maybe you think that if you just give a little more, they'll finally see your worth. But here's the truth. Genuine relationships don't require you to prove your value. The right people appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you can do. So how do you protect yourself? First, recognize the difference between generosity and obligation. Being generous means giving freely without expecting something in return. But feeling obligated, feeling like you have to give in order to be accepted, that's a sign of an unhealthy dynamic. Second, pay attention to how people respond when you set boundaries. The wrong people will get upset when you stop being convenient for them. They'll guilt trip you, make you feel selfish, or act like you've changed for the worse. The right people, on the other hand, will respect your limits because they see you as a person, not just a resource. Finally, start investing in relationships that are built on trust, not transactions. Surround yourself with people who check in on you even when they don't need anything, who celebrate your success without expecting a reward, and who offer help without keeping score. Real relationships aren't about keeping a balance sheet of favors. They're about mutual care, shared experiences, and true connection. You deserve relationships that uplift you, not ones that drain you. You deserve to be valued for who you are, not just for what you can give. So if you find yourself caught in a cycle of transactional relationships, step back and ask yourself, am I being appreciated or just being used? Because the moment you stop allowing yourself to be treated like a tool, you start being seen as the person you truly are. The people you surround yourself with will shape your mindset, your energy, and ultimately your future. Whether you realize it or not, your environment has a powerful influence on the way you think, the risks you take, and the standards you set for yourself. The wrong people will drain you, hold you back, and make you question your worth. The right people will challenge you, support you, and remind you of what you're capable of. Too often, we hold on to relationships out of habit, history, or obligation. We keep people in our lives simply because they've been there for a long time, even if they don't bring anything positive anymore. We tolerate negativity, accept mediocrity, and make excuses for those who don't truly support us. But here's the truth. If the people around you don't inspire growth, they are limiting it. Think about the last conversation you had with a close friend. Did you walk away feeling motivated, energized, and understood? Or did you feel drained, discouraged, or unheard? That's the simplest way to recognize whether someone is adding to your life or taking away from it. The people who truly belong in your life are the ones who make you feel capable, not the ones who make you question yourself. The right people will do three things for you: support, challenge, and elevate. They will support you when you're struggling, reminding you of your strengths and helping you get back on your feet. They will challenge you when you're playing small, pushing you to step out of your comfort zone and become better. And they will elevate you not by giving you shortcuts, but by encouraging you to reach higher, dream bigger, and demand more from yourself. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning that not everyone is meant to stay. Some people come into your life for a season, and when that season is over, you have to let them go. Holding on to relationships that no longer serve you isn't loyalty, it's self-sabotage. Growth requires change, and sometimes that change includes the people around you. So how do you find the right people? Start by being intentional. Seek out those who share your values, who lift you up, and who push you to be better. Pay attention to how people respond to your success. Do they celebrate with you, or do they get quiet? Notice who is there for you when you have nothing to offer. Real relationships aren't built on convenience, they're built on consistency. It's not about surrounding yourself with perfect people, because no one is perfect. It's about surrounding yourself with people who are good for your growth, who challenge you in the right ways, and who remind you of your worth when you forget it yourself. At some point, we all have to ask ourselves a simple but powerful question. Who is in control of my life? Is it you, or are you allowing other people to steer your decisions, shape your future, and define your worth? Because the truth is, if you don't take ownership of your path, someone else will, and it will almost never be in your best interest. Too often, people drift through life reacting instead of leading. They stay in jobs they hate because it's easier than taking a risk. They follow expectations placed on them by family, society, or peers instead of defining success on their own terms. They settle for relationships, careers, and lifestyles that don't fulfill them simply because they feel stuck, afraid, or unsure of where to start. But here's the reality. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the life you want. That's your responsibility. Taking ownership of your path means accepting that where you are today is a result of the choices you've made. That can be a hard truth to swallow because it means we can't blame others for our situation. But the moment you accept responsibility, you also gain power. the power to change, to grow, and to build the life you truly want. One of the biggest obstacles to taking ownership is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong choice. But the most successful people aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who move forward despite it. They understand that failure isn't the end, it's just a lesson. They refuse to let the opinions of others dictate their path, and most importantly, they trust themselves to make the right decisions even when the outcome is uncertain. Another challenge is waiting for permission. Too many people hold back on pursuing their goals because they think they need approval. Approval from their boss, their parents, their friends, or society as a whole. But waiting for permission is a trap. If you're always looking for validation before making a move, you'll stay stuck, living a life designed by others instead of one that fulfills you. So what does taking ownership actually look like? It means setting clear goals based on what you want, not what others expect from you. It means making decisions with intention, not just going along with whatever is easiest. It means holding yourself accountable. If something isn't working in your life, you don't complain or blame, you take action to change it. It also means being honest with yourself. Are you making excuses? Are you staying in a situation that no longer serves you? Are you playing small because it's more comfortable than pushing yourself? True ownership requires self-awareness and the willingness to make tough choices. But here's the good news. Once you take full ownership of your path, everything changes. You stop feeling powerless. You stop looking for external validation. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it. You realize that your happiness, success, and fulfillment are not dependent on anyone else. They are completely within your control. At the end of the day, this is your life. You can either let others decide it for you, or you can step up and take the lead. The choice is yours. So ask yourself, are you living on autopilot or are you in control? Because the moment you take ownership, you unlock your full potential. And there is nothing more powerful than that.